Guys, so with solo leveling Arise, as you guys know, we have the option to get a free legendary blessing and a free legendary ruin, a skill, which is fantastic. Selection of our choice. Yeah, we don't have to rely on RNG. You can specifically pick a legendary ruin of your choosing. Now, apologies, I was actually meant to get this video out like 12 hours ago or so. But yeah, I had to download the hidden ones, work, and yeah, I was just super busy. But anyway, I've got time right now, and so this is going to be huge for those that are still currently playing. Unless you're an absolute whale and you've got everything, then you know, do as you please. But again, this is also going to be massive for newcomers. I understand that obviously solo leveling is getting a lot of attraction in terms of with the weekly showing, you know, especially the last episode. And so, yeah, for newcomers to come and instantly get a legendary blessing as well as a legendary ruin, you can really stack up on, you know, having that great amount of DPS at the very beginning of your, you know, of your SLA journey, as you could say. So, there's a plethora of choices, but in the same situation as blessing, there are certain ones that I would highly prioritize and recommend you choose from. Okay, so in terms of the ruins that I would suggest that people should have as a legendary, so number one on the list, I will say it's going to be magnifying slashes. In terms of producing damage output, in terms of having coverage through what was it, Baron, when it comes to having coverage through the guild bosses, Power of Destruction, Battlefield of Trials, WoW's Guild Boss, there is a lot of coverage in terms of having this specific skill in those said modes, including Vulcan. I'll also throw Vulcan in there too, even though Vulcan is weak to water and wind. You could still make good use of this dark element because of the damage output it produces, of course. But in terms of high maximum damage, and on top of that, it pairs up extremely well with like the Plum Sword and the Moon Shadow Daggers. Of course, those are primarily universally fantastic weapons to have. Again, for newcomers, solid. This right here will be, in my eyes, your priority ruin to choose from out of everything else in terms of maximizing a disgusting amount of damage and having a lot of coverage through the game modes on what is on offer. This covers a lot of things. But there is also another ruin that I would say that's on the same boat, and that is going over to the next ruin beside it, Vacuum Wave, when it comes to the armor break side of things, of course. The wind element version of it, in my opinion, is the fan favorite. Again, you've got that almighty break coverage going on there, and then you've got the increasing the damage taken towards the enemy. Forget about the vertical arts. I mean, that might help you out if you do want to pair that up with the extra 30%, but the key thing is that getting the extra 15%, and then of course the almighty break, of course. Once again, separating the two, obviously they'll have their viable coverage that will give you the big advantage play, of course. So that's kind of a given. But once again, yeah, it's in the same boat as the magnifying slashes in terms of coverage through the Workshop Brilliant Light, being Baron, Vulcan, right? Guild bosses, obviously this is one of the ones that I utilize to this day in terms of the double guild boss fights, of course, whether it be the Wyvern or the current the Queen Ant, of course, and again in many other scenarios, Battlefield of Trials. I feel like, yeah, no, it's practically the same in terms of the usage of this, on how universal it is in terms of covering so many modes. That's kind of like the two that I would suggest. Now, I think I would lean more to say go for the magnifying slashes, purely because of catering more so to damage. In terms of armor break, you can have break coverage in other means. I would honestly, hand on heart, K2 magnifying slashes, to be fair, just because when it comes to the vacuum wave, having that extra 15% is nice in terms of increased damage. But it is the big sell factor of the armor break that it provides, being the almighty break. But in other means, you can get heavy break, which you can probably cater to, because producing that damage output. Because once that breakage is done, once you break the enemy's bar, then at that point, you know, damage is the way forward for the majority of the fight itself. So that's kind of how I look at it with these two. They've got a high amount of overall coverage throughout what the game offers. In terms of what I would say is more prioritized damage. So right now I'm actually about to get Magnifying Slash. As you guys can see, I don't have it, so I'm gonna get it. I feel left out. I feel left out, so I'm gonna be using it to get mine. So those are the two that I would suggest that should be high tier prioritized. But in terms of 1 or 2, Magnifying Slash will be number 1, Vacuum Wave will be number 2. So those are the two ones that I'm going to push for, to say put them on your radar. If you don't have them in the legendary form, do so. They are very valuable in terms of having high amount of coverage through majority of the game modes that the game has, and obviously they themselves in their separate typing will have that advantage play too. So there's that. Now in terms of other good pickups, I mean, you could, to be fair, when it comes to the slashes themselves, in terms of, if we look at the current content that people are probably trying to tackle, aka the newest Workshop Brilliant Light, realistically the 2 fire and light element ruins that I would say are a juicy pickup would be this for the fire element, because of the core play that the Phoenix Soul Bow and the fan has. So this is just a free, well, this will not only help you get the fire demon buff a lot sooner, but again, high amount of damage, and you get an extra core damage pop off through the Phoenix Soul Bow. So this is also a very solid one if that's something that you're trying to capitalize on. Of course, there's always that option. Furthermore, when it comes to the breakage side of things, I really do love the light version of it, in terms of, again, having that break. But as you guys can see, when used, you do get that 20% increase of defense. Of course, it does stack up to 5 times. It's only for, yeah, so the reset cooldown is 20 seconds, but I don't know what it is about this one, but as dumb as it sounds, it does kind of feel a bit, how should I say, it feels like the cooldown's a lot quicker. I don't know how else to kind of word it, but you also do become invincible through that, so that's also very nice to have, of course. So that's some coverage right there if that's something that you want to tackle. I mean, you've got, respectfully, you can also resort to going with the light version. I mean, clearly these 2 ruin sets are always going to be highly beneficial, purely because of the high amount of damage these will produce, as well as the almighty break, as well as, you know, the damage output that these guys, this also produces. Obviously this fire one is okay-ish, it's just it requires a little bit of a build up, not something that I would really focus on. So again, if you're really trying to focus on the newest Workshop Brilliant Light, then this is going to be your best option in terms of having that almighty break. And then when it comes to the runes themselves, I would cater to the fire element. And if you are running double light, then you can resort to running with the double down if that's something that you want to cater to, of course, in terms of just kind of focusing on the newer piece of content. I'm also going to throw this in here. When it comes to, what is this? Is it vertical arts? Yeah, when it comes to vertical arts, actually, the fire one is extremely handy for Battlefield of Trials if you're into your whole boss fights, of course. This is also fairly decent for boss fights, or boss battles, as you could say. Power of Destruction too for the fire element, of course. So honestly, if I had this in legendary form, I would probably jump the gun and get this in legendary form too, because this just has fantastic fire coverage in those situations. So again, in those specific scenarios, you can utilize this quite nicely. So again, this is more on the lower priority. I'm just kind of pinpointing certain ruins that are going to help you out in certain situations, certain modes themselves. But I just kind of wanted to get out of the way the ones that are going to be universally loved, ones that are going to be focusing more on the newest side of content. And these are just kind of like, if you've got everything else covered in terms of what I just spoke about, these are like, you know, the third, fourth slot of things, of course. So yeah, that is actually not too bad. Again, another good one for Power of Destruction is, I believe it's, yeah, I think it's this one. Yeah. So obviously with the quickness of breaking the arm, so that way you can keep up with the consistency of the damage flowing through. This is pretty nice to have with Magnifying Slashes, of course. Another solid one, actually, I'm pretty sure. So I mean, again, if you want to make good do with some dagger usage in terms of range play, you can either go for the fire or the light. I mean, these are fairly solid. Again, more so for the Power of Destruction type of play, certain boss fights you can also make good use of it, but again, this is more on the low priority. If you've got a lot of the other better ones covered in terms of it being a legendary, then you can resort to clearing up some of these other ones, of course, that I've just mentioned. So get some little dagger tossing going on, of course. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't really concern myself with the newest ruins, to be fair. I mean, I don't really utilize that as much. I mean, the only one that I really do care for is the dark one. I think out of all of these, I think the dark one's been used the most in terms of time attack coverage. So I mean, if that's something that you're interested in, then you can always go resort to that. You can always hit this one up to legendary in terms of if you're ult chasing, or if you're running the blessing set and you want to ult chase, you know, you can also resort to running this one. It's very helpful in that manner, of course. I believe, yeah, we do have the QTE skills. So I mean, if you do want to maximize your damage output, so when the user uses Overshadow, it consumes HP equal to 50% of the current HP and increases their skill damage by 20%. So yeah, if you guys do want to go with that, that's also a fantastic option. I know a few people do utilize that. Fairly solid. You can cater to some breakness and apply that corrosion, so increase the break effectiveness by 12%. If that's again furthermore something that you need to cater to, at times I have catered to this, so this isn't too bad. So again, it's in that situation of if you need breakage support or if you need damage support, you've got your two QTEs there to well, not your QTEs, but what will this be regarded as? Yeah, def. There we go. You got your choices between the two if that's something that you want to cater to. I wouldn't really concern myself with the other two, to be fair. Yeah, it's mainly just these two that are highly beneficial. In terms of this, I mean, I don't really typically use it as much, but this will be fairly solid, the surprise attack. So you do get a little bit of weak break, but more importantly, resonance is applied. So when the target is in break status, it removes the resonance effect and activates Sundry Move's damage increase effect, which it gives you an increase of 15%. So that's that heroic. So if I had that legendary, again, that'll bump me up quite nicely. So I think that is the only one that I would prioritize. Anything else, I'm not really too interested in. I mean, again, element coverage-wise, these two won't be too bad if that's something that you want to focus on. But universally, I think this will be the more of the beneficial one, being collapse, of course, if you guys do want to cater to these other set skills for Sundry Wu, of course. So those are the ones that I would recommend. But yeah, that's kind of like my recommendations to the newcomers, and in terms of others, just looking at what ruins to get, just kind of going through some of them. I feel like, I don't know, some of you guys might be lucky in getting the ones that I've already mentioned in terms of being the high tier. So in terms of just kind of picking up a few other ones that could help you out in other scenarios, other situations, hopefully it gives you guys a good idea on what to pick up. So there's that. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll end it there. So all the best, get your legendary ruins, and hopefully it helps you out when it comes to progressing through whatever content that you're trying to tackle. So all the best. But this is also a huge W in terms of supporting you with the newest Workshop Brainlight if you are struggling with that. So yeah.